spent years on language learning apps and programs, and I always felt like I was just rote memorizing things. Things that I would never say in real life. Like, the penguin wants to read the red book. Like, who would say that in a conversation? If you're sick of feeling like an outsider in Italian conversations and you actually want to learn those phrases to converse with your family, your friends, locals in Italy, I'm going to tell you why your language app is failing you today. And a better, way more efficient method to learning. I've helped so many English speakers go from stuck on apps to confidently building connections and speaking Italian happily. Just like my students Ellen and Bob did after struggling with apps for years, literally years.
There's only so much you get from an app, but in this class, I learned a little bit more details, even just learning the alphabet. You kind of fill in places where working with an app, or even just working with people that that speak Italian, you miss things. So this class kind of filled in a lot of the gaps and spaces that I wasn't getting from the other things that I was studying. So yeah, it filled in a lot of things for me. Now I can recognize all kinds of verbs, and it's just easier to learn the language that way.
So if you're tired of the constant streaks and want to actually hold a real Italian conversation in the way that Italians would, check out my free beginner's lesson below. It takes you right from your first words to a literal full conversation, so you'll start speaking in 60 minutes. And you'll learn more in those 60 minutes than you did with a whole month of apps. So what's the big problem with apps and learning from your phone in general? Apps teach words, not conversations. Apps make you memorize grammar and flashcards and vocabulary. And then you feel really good because you feel like you know a lot of words, a lot of vocabulary. But do they show you how to respond naturally to a conversation? How to actually interact with someone? The little nuances? No. So I created something called the swirl method. Swirl stands for speak, write, read, and listen. With this method, you actually learn to interact with somebody and not just repeat. Speaking, writing, reading, and listening encompass all of language learning. So you don't excel in one and then lack on the others. You grow them all at the same time. For example, apps will teach you to say something like, my penguin would love to read that red book. But would you ever say that in a conversation, right? I mean, if you do, then that's a weird conversation. But no, right? You're most likely, if you're going to Italy to talk to your family for the first time or the second time, you're probably not going to say that, right? So instead, you want to learn the phrases you'll actually use. Something like, sto imparando italiano da 3 anni. I've been learning Italian for 3 years. Like, you're way more likely to tell someone that you've been studying Italian for 3 years than say that your penguin wants to read whatever book. The second point is that you're not actually having a conversation with someone. There's no real human feedback, and apps are done on a screen. You can't practice really good pronunciation, really good intonation or rhythm of how you speak, and you can't get live feedback. So when it's time to actually talk to somebody and you just repeat a sentence you learned from an app or a textbook, you'll get a lot of anxiety because the person on the receiving end might not understand completely what you're saying, or it might even be in a rhythm or a funny intonation that doesn't match the normal spoken language. So for example, let's say you learn how to say sto imparando italiano da 3 anni from an app. You might not know where to throw that in a conversation. Do you throw it in the beginning, right after you say come stai or come va? Do you throw it in right at the end? How do you say it? What's your intonation like? All those things and nuances you grasp from actually experiencing conversations. Hear me out, novel idea. Learning Italian for the purpose of speaking and connecting and having conversations requires speaking, connecting, and having conversations. On the other hand, if you're learning to take a test and you just think Italian's cool and you want to learn the words, then apps are fine for that. But again, learning Italian for connection requires connection. Have you ever felt like apps just weren't getting you anywhere, or that you've had a 365-day or more streak, but yet when the time came to talk, like you just totally blanked and did not know what to say? Let me know in the comments. It happens way more than you think. My third point here is that there's no cultural context inside an app. And this is really the point that makes you seem like an outsider as opposed to an insider. Apps teach in a bubble. You're in their world. So they control the conversation you're having, and they control the vocabulary and the things that you're learning. It's not up to you. It's up to them what you're learning. For example, if you have a particular interest in going for walks or swimming, then you are going to want to go to Italy and maybe talk about that with your family, right? Or your friends or locals in Italy. Or maybe you love Italian food, right? Who doesn't? You're totally going to want to talk about that when you go to Italy or with your Italian family. So as opposed to learning random flat out sentences and a curriculum that matches what they want, why not learn with a curriculum that matches what you want? This is the entire strategy inside the Italian Toolkit program, and how I've helped hundreds of English speakers and people with Italian heritage go from feeling like an outsider, not knowing what they're doing when they go to Italy, feel like a textbook and with these apps and not know what they're saying, to really building these authentic connections, getting to speak with their family all the time, and really feeling like they're a part of their family or a part of the culture in Italy. Apps can't teach you how to really connect and build those authentic bonds with people. They're an okay starting point. You're going to learn a little vocabulary, and it's not to say that you'll learn nothing. I'm just focusing on the actual conversations and things that inspire you to learn Italian, and that's different for everyone. So if you're tired of feeling stuck with these endless streaks on learning apps, and you're ready to actually connect and have those conversations and actually get from point A to point B in a conversation, grab my free lesson link below. I teach with the entire basis of getting you to connect and have authentic conversations with people so that you can feel like you belong in Italy and talk with your Italian family and make Italian friends and just essentially be a part of the culture. My lesson there is your first starting point. It's where Bob and Ellen started and got the real help that they needed. It's packed with real practical value. Grab a pen and a paper. It's useful and it'll really get you to connect. Just remember that your strategy should not be one size fits all that someone else decides what you should learn. It should be what you want to learn. So if this video was really helpful and laid out the methods on how you want to learn, then please leave a like, comment, subscribe. It really helps out the channel and will spread this video out to other Italian learners. And of course, click the little notification bell so you don't miss out when I post new Italian lessons every week. You can watch my next lesson right here, where I go over 50 words and phrases in Italian that you can use for actual conversations right now. Ci vediamo alla prossima. Ciao!